There is a great multitude that is gathering now against God's people. A great multitude. And it's being presented to us in very palatable means like this. Board of peace. Who doesn't want peace? We all want peace, right? But is it board of peace or bored of peace? Interesting how the devil plays these tricky little games. The Peace Council was initially presented as an initiative aimed at addressing the Gaza war. However, President Trump has since stated that its scope will be broader, with the stated goal of resolving conflicts around the world. Several countries, including Israel and Egypt, have already accepted the invitation. The gathering of nations. Does the Bible talk about that? Now, when they say peace, peace, what does the Bible say happens after that? So I would say it's more board of peace than it is board of peace if we were looking at the biblical understanding of it. Peace, peace, for they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Jeremiah says the same thing. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of thy people slightly, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. Now Jeremiah was stuck in a kind of a bad spot in Jerusalem. He had the audacious task of telling the truth to a bunch of people who didn't want to hear it. And so you had a group of people who were hearing the truth in Jerusalem, but were also hearing the soothing lies of the false prophets in Jerusalem. Do we have that same contrasting between the two today? Absolutely. Is it easy to tell people the truth of the reality of our situation? No, not always. But when we point to the sufficiency of Jesus Christ, that He loves you so much that He wants you to understand what's coming, and that what He did on the cross was just the start of something where He is working today, the expression of the fullness of His love in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, that is a message of hope and love. Absolutely a message of hope and love. But it has to be done so with the biting of the truth. And the biting of the truth is when we see councils like this coming together, it should send off prophetic alarm bells to everybody. How many here knew that Pope Leo was invited to the council? Yeah. So Trump, and please forgive me, I'm not trying to make, these are not political statements. God has given us this information that we might navigate through what is political to look at what is spiritual. And He says, you will know them by their fruits. Well, how could we know them by their fruits unless we're observing what they're doing? So please, when I make these statements, they are not pro either side of the political spectrum. This is simply we are observing the reality that we live in and comparing it with Scripture. But Trump, since he's taken office, has primarily been the figurehead of which religious ideology? Christianity, but what version of Christianity? Evangelical Christianity. Now, evangelicals, are they Protestant or not? By definition, they are Protestant. So you have the figurehead of the Protestant movement gathering the nations to start peace accords, and then he invites the Pope. That seems very not Protestant of him. Now, his son-in-law and his daughter are both Jewish. Interesting. And now we have the papacy coming in, the merging. It's very interesting when you kind of can see the forest for the trees. You can see that Donald is acting as a unifier for all of these religious views. You guys see that? Have you seen him out in Israel, touching the Wailing Wall, the ancient Roman fort of Antonia that they say is the old temple mount site, which it's not? He's being the great unifier. He's gathering the nations together. Pope Leo, the first American pontiff in history of the Roman Catholic Church, has publicly criticized certain policies of President Trump in the past. For this reason, Cardinal Parleone noted the decision on whether the Pope will participate cannot be taken lightly. It's a huge deal. They're currently weighing whether he's going to join or not. I just want to ask you guys, as Bible students, do they join forces? Yeah. We don't have to guess at what's going to happen here. It doesn't even matter if Pope Leo doesn't take the invitation. We know they're coming together. We know it with certainty. But we can't be taking these things lightly. This is the prophetic picture coming together. says the Pope, leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics, rarely joins international boards. And it talks about how the Vatican has been diplomatic mediator for both Cuba and Venezuela in the past. And they have permanent observer status at the United Nations. So again, this is the last system that the world is under. The Bible calls mystery, what? Babylon. Mystery Babylon. And in order to do that, they have to gather what? The whole world together. Just like they had Babylon in the past. So every effort, if I could just kind of share a shortcut on the world events, every effort, everything that you see happening around the world, Russia, China, Ukraine, the Middle East, Venezuela, America, Greenland, all has one end. A unified world against God's remnant. Now let's look at these logos that they've given us. Board of Peace on the left and the United Nations on the right. And I want to ask you, what is the thing encompassing the whole world? The Roman laurel. This is important symbolism because the Bible tells us what power we are in till the end of time. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. We're in Rome. We're 100% in Rome, and that's why you see all the symbolism of the Roman laurel wrapping around the whole world. It's used over and over. It's used on national flags. It's on the Venezuelan flag. It's on many other flags. And people would say, oh, well, it came from Greece. It was, if you could even go into AI and ask, what is the laurel most known for? What kingdom is it most associated with? They'll say Julius Caesar in Rome. The whole idea is, while it looks like a separate world, it is in the process of unifying. Now, I believe this morning Sabbath school lesson was on unity. Is that right? Are we supposed to want unity amongst our brothers and sisters? 100%. Absolutely. And I actually see God pressing us together now. I see it happening now. It's just getting started, but I see God working now. But guess what I also see? Every weapon and council and committee also pressing together and forming and strengthening their coalition. Now, most of what we have to battle in the church has nothing to do with what's going on outside of these doors. Has everything to do with what's going on inside of our hearts. And the true victory in faith is not coming to some place of perfection and saying, I'm above all the others, which is kind of where the Jews sit today. We're going to look a little bit at that. But it's mostly about, God, how do I surrender everything to you? Teach me what it is to surrender things I don't actually own. It's in my heart, true, but I don't even have the capacity to give it to you because I don't have the strength to overcome my own sin. But with God, all things are possible. So this victory can be had, and the way that we can do it together, brothers and sisters, is by starting to ask God to help us surrender our hearts so that the division in our churches may be pushed out. And look, we know the state of the church and where it's going. She says right before Satan appears, it appears as it's about to fall, but it does not. It does not. And so we have to have faith that God, it is His battle, it is His church, it is His Spirit that gains the victory. And so our ability to surrender to God in the face of what's forming will be the path to victory. Repentance, coming to God in humility, will give us that unity that He so desperately wants among His people. We showed the Roman laurel is often associated with the Greek god Apollo. Does anyone remember what aspect of nature Apollo is associated with? The sun. Sun worship. Sun day. So even in the logos, they're uplifting the god of the sun, which has been the problem since ancient Babylon. It's the same thing over and over and over. The Bible tells what exactly is going to happen here. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast. Boy, that looks a lot like what the Board of Peace is looking like, doesn't it? They're starting to agree and they're giving it. They're inviting Pope Leo in. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles which go forth unto the kings of the earth and to the whole world to gather them. They're gathering. They're bringing the nations together. This is what is unfolding in our world as we speak. And a lot of the Peace Board, all of this initiative, it's centralizing around the Abraham Accords and the document known as Project 2025. You guys remember those two initiatives? So the Board of Peace, largely focused on the Middle East. The Abraham Accords, Project 2025, it's all centralized and focused in the Middle East. Jerusalem, Israel. Is that where the Bible wants us to focus today? Boy, oh boy, if the false prophet really is the false prophet, then everything they're doing right now is saying, focus on the Middle East, focus on Jerusalem. Israel is still God's people today. Have any of you come across that in your own witnessing or dialoguing with people? Because if you haven't, just get ready. This is going to be a cornerstone pillar of what the false prophet brings to the world. It already is. It's already happening. Even if it hasn't reached your front door yet, it will. In fact, they're making laws, anti-Semitic laws. In Australia, I don't even want to tell you yet what's happening in Canada. It's not good. But the bottom line is, they're trying to get rid of free speech, even if you're speaking the truth. Because in the end, it will be a whole world against a small remnant. And we see that forming right now. And they're expecting most people not to know the difference, so they're going to go along with it. Now, I've taken two quotes from inside of the Project 2025 document from page 185 and 274. This was written several years ago, before Trump got into office a second time. The Peace Board, the Board of Peace, specifically focused on inviting countries like Saudi Arabia and getting rid of the Palestinian authorities. Now look at this quote from page 185. The next administration, because they didn't know who it was, should build on Trump's administration's diplomatic successes by encouraging other Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, to enter the Abraham Accords. The Palestinian Authority should be defunded. Well, Israel and Palestine, I mean, that would very much look like an Israeli agenda at that point. Then the second quote from page 274, foreign aid must advance the Abraham Accords. Sister White says, Roman Catholic principles will come under care and protection of the state. When the church uses the civil arm to enforce her dogmas, essentially national destruction will follow. This is what that looks like. Foreign aid must advance the Abraham Accord, increase trade and investments between Israel and its Arab neighbors, specifically Saudi Arabia, Turkey, represent the most effective path forward to reducing poverty. Look at who joined the board on the first invitation, Saudi Arabia and Turkey. So Israel is involved in there. Palestine is not. Iran, it's not. So this is the exact enactment of a plan that they have had for a long time. And people are sitting like, wow, where did this come from? The Board of Peace, I never could have imagined such a thing. Well, it's in a document several years old. And who gave us that document, that Project 2025 document? Do you remember? The Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts is the president, a very powerful Roman Catholic, Opus Dei, Knight of Malta. Now, this is not to stand up here to just talk about these foreign powers. It's to show you how this is really happening in front of our eyes. How it's going to infuse itself in our culture, into the people's minds, your neighbors' minds. People who are none the wiser because they did not take the time they had to have a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, we are not judging everybody in those churches who may not know this yet. But if they don't know it, and you don't know it, who's supposed to tell them what the real story is? That's our job, by God's grace, of course. He uses his instruments to save people. Think of the eunuch. Going by, he wanted to be baptized, he didn't understand, and there Philip was, to meet the challenge. But imagine if Philip hadn't done his job and gotten ready for that very moment, the eunuch and Philip would have been just lost. I don't know what to do. I mean, maybe we could baptize you, but I don't really know how to do that. I mean, Jesus is cool, but I don't really know how to explain why you need him. This is why our job is to get ready for this battle now, because we're in times of peace. I don't know if you guys have seen what's happening in the UK with freedom of speech, where one post, social media post, the cops will come to your door and arrest you. There are bills on the table to have that same thing happening here in Canada. And that shouldn't surprise you because both Australia and Canada are British territories. So the false prophet has this view on the Antichrist, this 7-year tribulation. He's coming in the future. Who is he? Who is he? Who is he? And they say he's going to be a charismatic political figure. He's going to broker a Middle East peace deal. He's going to focus on the Middle East and Jerusalem specifically, and they will say peace, peace, but no peace. I actually made this slide last year, and it is so on the nose for what's happening with this peace, peace. Because you guys know who the Antichrist is, you'll know why this isn't true. But if I had to ask you who this describes the most in the world today, who would you say? Interesting. Trump and Kushner. So the guy that is the head figure for the evangelical Christian movement also just happens to fit the evangelical movement's very definition of who the Antichrist is. This is what false prophecy looks like when it's unfolding on the world stage. The most qualified individuals are the very ones that are brokering those peace agreements for it to be the Antichrist from the evangelical point of view. But obviously, you and I, we are not prisoners of the moment. We cannot be deceived by them putting into place, oh, see, it is really Jerusalem because they're making it Jerusalem. Oh, see, it really is Donald Trump and Kushner because they're making it Donald Trump and Kushner by giving them this, brokering this peace deals. They're trying to distract the world from one figure. Who is it? Jesus Christ. But who's the enemy? The Pope, Satan. They're trying to get you distracted from who the real man of sin is. And they don't expect most of the world to realize it. And in fact, now they're making laws to say, well, if you call it like it really is, then we're going to throw you in jail. Who did that happen to? Jeremiah. We just read about Jeremiah. His job from the Lord was to tell the truth, even when the world was going to hate him for it. And he said, God, I don't know. I don't really want to do this anymore. They keep throwing me in the stocks. I'm done. And then he gets out. He sees some abomination from some false prophet in the street. He just can't help himself say something. Does anyone else feel like they're on that same line as Jeremiah? Boy, I do. I know, Bill. I see your hand back there, Brother Bill. I know you feel that way. I feel that way too. I can't help myself. Because I love the Lord so much and it makes me sick to see His name getting dragged through the mud. Take my name, drag it through the mud, but His name, no. So most of the world right now, the Christian world, the Jewish world, is talking about this growing, budding relationship between the United States and Israel. Is that pretty clear over the last year? In fact, my Twitter timeline is so filled with Israel, Israel, Israel. And half of it is Israel's good. If you don't love them, you're not Christian. The other half is it's the Jews running the world and ruining it. And neither are true. What is true? This is the guide. This is the thing that tells us what's true and what's not true. And it tells us it's not these two powers we need to be worried about as much. It's that power sitting above it, the Vatican flag. Why? Why in Jerusalem is the Vatican flag sitting up there? That's a story for another time. But we know who the powers are. And the devil's trying so hard to infuse so much and look at this thing and look at that thing and oh, look over there, this peace board, and right at the bottom, guess who's nobody's talking about? Rome. At the bottom of it all is Rome. And it's Rome that gave us this dispensationalist evangelical view of Israel today.